Hawaii is famous for its golden beaches, tropical forests, and serene sunsets. But beneath the paradise lies shadows, whispers, and secrets older than any visitor can imagine. Some islands are haunted by spirits who never found peace, their footsteps echoing across abandoned beaches and cliffs. Lanterns swing in empty villages. Figures walk silently through thick jungle fog. Visitors have felt icy hands brush their arms along deserted trails and have heard soft chants in languages long forgotten. Some even swear the waves carry whispers from the drowned, calling names in the dark. Tonight, we journey into the 20 most haunted island places in Hawaii, where the beauty of the land hides the restless dead. Hello dear listener. Welcome to another night of shadow and mystery, where paradise becomes a place of fear. I hope you are somewhere safe and comfortable. Maybe sitting quietly with headphones. Because tonight we explore the haunted islands of Hawaii, where ancient spirits roam forests, cliffs, and beaches. And the living are never truly alone. Some islands hold abandoned villages. Some beaches are silent except for whispers that seem to come from nowhere. Some caves echo soft chants, and shadows move independently of the light. Visitors report figures appearing in their peripheral vision, disappearing when they look directly. Others claim they have heard footsteps following them along cliffs where no one else has set foot. Before we step into the haunted islands, answer me this in the comments. If you had to spend a night alone on a haunted Hawaiian island, would you stay by the beach? Or venture into the forest trails where shadows move in the mist? Take a deep breath. The islands await. Ka Lae, at the southernmost tip of Hawaii's Big Island, is a place where land and sea converge dramatically. Sharp cliffs drop into the Pacific, waves crash with relentless energy, and the night sky stretches endlessly over the ocean. By day, the area is known for its windswept beauty and rugged isolation, attracting visitors seeking solitude and a glimpse of Naturia's raw power. Yet after sunset, the landscape takes on an entirely different character, one where history, memory, and the unexplained seem to come alive. Those who remain after dark often speak of ghostly fishermen appearing along the rocky shore. Figures, faintly illuminated by the glow of lanterns that seem to float in midair, move with deliberate purpose. They cast lines into the water, reel in invisible nets, and perform the quiet rituals of a livelihood long past. The movement is steady, rhythmic, and eerily precise, as if the fishermen exist simultaneously in this world and another. Observers describe the sight as hauntingly beautiful, yet tinged with unease. The glow of the phantom lanterns is subtle but unmistakable. Unlike modern lights, it flickers softly, casting muted reflections on the wet rocks and the dark surface of the ocean. These lights guide the figures in their work and create a surreal atmosphere, illuminating only fragments of the scene at a time. Observers often notice shadows stretching and contracting with the lantern glow, adding depth and movement to the otherwise still night. Sounds accompany the visual phenomena, deepening the experience. Some visitors report hearing the low splash of water against unseen nets, the soft creak of fishing poles bending, and occasional murmurs carried by the wind. Others have felt sudden splashes of cold water on their skin, despite the tide being low and the waves distant. The effect is disorienting, a tangible reminder that the ocean itself seems alive with echoes of the past. One account describes a lone traveler standing near the edge of the cliffs, watching the ocean under a clear, star-strewn sky. A faint glow appeared on the rocks below, revealing several figures bending over invisible nets. The observer felt a chill in the air as cold water splashed their feet, though the tide had receded. The figures moved rhythmically, pulling in imaginary lines, their lanterns glowing faintly against the darkness. As the traveler drew closer, the fishermen gradually faded, leaving only the sound of distant waves and the memory of their presence. The sound of distant waves and the memory of their presence. The terrain of Ka Lae amplifies these experiences. Jagged rocks and steep cliffs create natural corridors for sound, carrying splashes and whispers in unexpected directions. The uneven surfaces reflect light in ways that make shadows stretch and shift unpredictably. Even minor movements or flickers of the lantern glow seem intensified, producing a heightened sense of motion and life in the otherwise quiet night. The landscape itself becomes a participant in the phenomena, framing the ghostly fisherman against the vastness of ocean and sky. Temperature changes are also commonly reported. A sudden coldness sweeps across the rocky shore, often coinciding with sightings of the figures or the appearance of lanterns. The chill is localized, felt only in certain areas, reinforcing the sensation that something unseen is nearby. Combined with the visual and auditory elements, the temperature shifts create a fully immersive experience, engaging multiple senses and leaving a lasting impression on observers. Despite their ghostly presence, the fishermen are not threatening. Their actions are purposeful, focused on the rhythms of work, and devoid of aggression. Observers often describe a sense of reverence, as if they are witnessing a ritual or a memory preserved in time. The figures appear bound to the shore and the ocean, performing tasks that continue long after the living have departed. There is a feeling of continuity, a reminder that life, labor, and memory persist even in the absence of the people who once carried them out. Repeated experiences suggest consistency in the phenomena. Lanterns appear in similar locations along the cliffs. Figures follow recognizable patterns as they cast and pull invisible nets. And the cold water splashes are reported in the same areas each night. The behavior of the figures and the environmental cues create a cohesive, immersive narrative, as if the past of Ka Lae continues to replay itself under the cover of darkness. By dawn, the scene returns to its natural state. The lanterns vanish, figures disappear, and the chill recedes. The ocean calm, and the shore empty. Yet those who have witnessed the phantom fisherman carry the memory of light, motion, and presence. The experience lingers, a haunting testament to the enduring connection between people, place, and the work that defined them. Ka Lae at night is more than a scenic point. It is a space where history and the supernatural intersect. Phantom fishermen glide across the rocks, lanterns glow softly in the darkness, and invisible nets ripple through the water. The site offers an experience both haunting and mesmerizing, where the past continues to move across the shoreline, drawing observers into a world where memory, labor, and spirit converge. Under the vast Hawaiian sky, a sense of foreboding settles over the landscape. The boundaries between reality and the unknown begin to blur. Hana Bay, on the eastern coast of Maui, is a place of breathtaking beauty. Waves crash against jagged cliffs, sending sprays of salt into the warm evening air. The sun sinks low over the horizon, casting a golden glow across the water and illuminating the winding path that follows the edge of the cliffs. It is a place that inspires awe and tranquility by day, yet as night falls, the atmosphere shifts, carrying with it whispers of legend and the echo of the unseen. Locals and fishermen alike tell stories of a woman in white who walks along the cliffs near the water. Her flowing dress catches the last light of day, moving silently over rocks and grass. Her gaze is fixed upon the horizon, as if waiting for someone lost to the sea. Those who have approached her describe a sudden disappearance, as though she vanishes into thin air or is absorbed by the mist rolling in from the bay. The experience leaves an impression both haunting and beautiful, a fleeting encounter with something that seems to exist between the realms of the living and the lost. Fishermen claim she is the spirit of a bride who was lost to the waves long ago. On stormy nights, when the surf crashes violently against the cliffs, they say she appears more often. Some have reported seeing her from their boats, a glowing figure standing at the cliff edge, looking out to sea, with an intensity that seems to pierce the darkness. The waves roar around her, yet she remains untouched by the spray and wind. A still and silent sentinel against the fury of nature. Visitors walking the cliff paths at twilight sometimes feel a sudden chill, a shift in the air as though someone else is present. The rustle of fabric is heard over the wind, and the soft movement of feet on rocks carries a rhythm unlike their own. Turning toward the sound, they find nothing but the endless expanse of ocean and the fading light on the cliffs. And then, at the very moment curiosity drives them forward, she vanishes. A subtle emptiness remains, filled with the memory of a form that should not be there. And the unshakable sense that the spirit continues to linger in silent vigilance. The legend of the Lady in White is old, carried along by those who live near Hana Bay. Generations of fishermen, hikers, and island residents have passed down the tale, each adding subtle details of encounters with the ghostly bride. Some describe her as serene and mournful, a figure of beauty tinged with sorrow. Others speak of her urgency, a desperate longing that can be sensed in the way she gazes at the horizon, waiting for a return that will never come. Despite variations in the story, the essence remains the same. She is a presence that bridges past and present, a soul tied to the cliffs and the waves forever. Those who have seen her often speak of a profound stillness that accompanies her appearance. Time seems to slow, the sound of waves and wind muted beneath the quiet of her presence. Even the most experienced fishermen admit to a moment of hesitation, a pause in their movements as though honoring the space she occupies. It is a reminder that Hana Bay is not only a place of natural beauty, but also a place where memory and legend converge, leaving traces in the air and on the paths where she walks. Imagine standing at the edge of the cliffs just as the sun dips beneath the horizon. The sky is painted in shades of pink and gold, the ocean stretching endlessly below. A gentle wind carries the scent of salt and the soft cries of seabirds returning to roost. And then, in the distance, a figure appears, clothed in white, moving with grace along the rocks. Her eyes are fixed on the water, and for a moment, it feels as though she has always been there, watching, waiting. You step forward, heart pounding, but before your eyes can reach her fully, she vanishes, leaving only the sound of waves and the echo of her presence. Encounters with the Lady in White are rare, yet they leave lasting impressions. Witnesses report feelings of both awe and melancholy, a mixture of beauty and loss that resonates long after she disappears. The experience is never frightening, it is contemplative, a silent dialogue between the living and a spirit bound by grief and memory. Some say that if you stand quietly at the cliff's edge, watching the waves, you can feel her presence nearby, guiding your gaze to the sea she never left. Hana Bay itself becomes a part of the story, the cliffs and the ocean intertwined with the legend of the bride. The waves carry her history, the wind whispers her sorrow. And the paths along the cliffs serve as a stage for fleeting appearances. Every encounter reminds those who visit that the island holds not only beauty, but stories echoes of lives and loves shaped by nature and fate. The Lady in White is a symbol of enduring loss, a spectral guardian, and a witness to the unceasing rhythm of the sea. If you walk along Hana Bay at twilight, watch the horizon carefully. Listen to the wind, and feel the gentle chill on the air. The cliffs and water seem to hold their breath. And sometimes, just sometimes, the Lady in White will appear, moving silently across the rocks. Her gaze will meet the horizon. And her presence will remind you that the sea holds more than waves and salta. It holds stories, memories, and spirits waiting to be remembered. The legend of the Lady in White at Hana Bay is not just a tale of ghostly apparition, but a connection to the past, a momentary bridge between this world and the next. She is a reminder of love, loss, and the enduring power of memory carried on the wind and waves. The cliffs, the water, and the sky are her domain, and those who witness her are fortunate enough to glimpse a spirit that lingers, silently guarding her place beside the endless ocean. Makapu'u Point stands as one of Oahu's most breathtaking coastal vistas, where cliffs rise dramatically above the Pacific. where the wind carries the scent of salt and seaweed. The structure is stark and white against the deep blue sky, a beacon for sailors for over a century. Yet as the sun dips below the horizon, the atmosphere shifts. The lighthouse, quiet and unlit, seems to pulse with presence. And some who linger report experiences that defy explanation. At night, the lighthouse shines even when powered down. Witnesses describe seeing the Biakona's light cutting across the dark ocean, rotating steadily as if the lighthouse were fully operational. The illumination is strong and unwavering, casting long, moving shadows across the rocky cliffs below. Those who try to approach the lighthouse or trace the light find that no mechanism is running, no electricity flows, yet the glow persists. The effect is both startling and mesmerizing, creating a sense of mystery that lingers long after the light fades from view. A tall figure in uniform paces the platform. Many visitors report seeing a solitary man standing near the lighthouse, dressed in an old-fashioned uniform reminiscent of a 20th-century lighthouse keeper. He moves slowly along the platform, steps deliberate, hands occasionally clasped behind his back. There is no way to determine his origin or whether he walks on solid ground. His presence is calm yet commanding, a sense of duty and purpose that is both captivating and unnerving. His presence is accompanied by cold wind and faint fog. Even on warm, still nights, a sudden chill often sweeps across the platform when the figure is present. A low-lying mist rolls in from the ocean, drifting over the cliffs and curling around rocks as if drawn to him. The wind carries the sound of faint, unidentifiable movements, the whisper of clothing brushing against the railings, and the subtle creak of platform boards responding to unseen weight. Visitors describe feeling a combination of awe and unease, a physical acknowledgement that something or something is nearby. One visitor recounted a late-evening hike along the cliff trail. The sky was clear, and the stars glimmered faintly above the Pacific. As she neared the lighthouse, a pale glow emanated from the beacon, rotating slowly across the waves. At first, she thought a distant Sheepa's light had reflected back, but the angle and steady rotation indicated it originated from the lighthouse itself. She noticed a tall figure pacing near the railing, uniformed and upright, scanning the ocean as if anticipating something on the horizon. A sudden breeze chilled her skin, carrying the scent of sea spray mixed with something faintly metallic. And a soft fog rolled over the cliffs, wrapping the lighthouse in a veil of white. She stepped back, and both the glow and the figure vanished as suddenly as they appeared. The lighthouse and its surroundings amplify the experience. The structure sits atop cliffs that rise sharply above the ocean, allowing sound and light to carry and reflect in unusual ways. The open platform and surrounding trails create spaces where subtle movements and noises are exaggerated, and fog tends to settle and swirl in patterns that suggest deliberate motion. Even the gentle rustle of grasses along the cliffs can appear purposeful, adding to the sense that the area is alive with observation and history. Imagine standing near the lighthouse at midnight. The Pacific stretches endlessly before you, waves breaking rhythmically against jagged rocks. The beacon rotates with soft intensity, illuminating the water and the cliffs below. Shadows stretch unnaturally long along the platform as a tall figure in uniform walks silently back and forth. A chill wind brushes your skin, fog drifts across the cliffs, and a faint echo of steps seems to follow your own. Every sense is heightened, sight, sound, touch, and the perception of presence that cannot be explained. The moment feels suspended in time, as though you are witnessing history continuing in parallel with the present. Visitors consistently describe similar phenomena. Hikers, lighthouse enthusiasts, and local residents report seeing the glow of the beacon, encountering the uniformed figure, and feeling sudden cold and mist. The reports span decades, creating a shared narrative of presence and memory that links generations of observers. Many describe an overwhelming sense of duty and vigilance in the figure, suggesting that the lighthouse remains watched, tended, and protected in ways beyond the physical realm. Even when the figure disappears, his presence lingers. The rotating light leaves trails on the waves, shadows mark the platform, and the fog continues to drift, carrying a quiet awareness of watchfulness. The air feels charged with history, the memory of those who operated the lighthouse, and the lingering energy of a guardian who may never leave. Observers feel both respect and awe, aware that they are in the presence of a continuation of life that no longer exists in the conventional sense. It is a site where memory, duty, and presence converge. The beacon that shines without power. The uniformed figure pacing the platform. And the rolling fog. And chilling wind. Combine to create an immersive, haunting experience. Visitors leave with a sense that the lighthouse lives beyond its physical form. A place where time is suspended and history moves silently alongside the present. A sentinel of the past, a guardian of the cliffs. A reminder that some places carry their keepers with them forever, watching, waiting, and protecting even when human eyes are absent. Pu'uho'ona Ohonau, located on the western coast of the Big Island, is a place of profound history and sacred significance. By day, its stone walls, temples, and carefully preserved structures draw visitors to reflect on the traditions and culture of ancient Hawaii. The site, once a place of refuge for those who broke sacred laws, carries a weight of memory that seems embedded in every stone. Yet as the sun sets and shadows stretch across the lava fields, the atmosphere shifts, and the sacred grounds reveal a quieter, more mysterious presence. Visitors who remain after dusk often speak of hearing chanting drifting across the open courtyards. The sound is soft, rhythmic, and ancient, carrying the cadence of voices from centuries past. There is no visible source, no group gathered to produce the sound, yet it resonates through the stone walls and open spaces, filling the air with a sense of ceremony and presence. The chanting seems both welcoming and commanding, an echo of the rituals once performed by priests, warriors, and members of the community who sought refuge within the Pi'u. Alongside the chanting, some witnesses report physical sensations that defy explanation. Invisible hands brush their shoulders as they walk through the grounds, a gentle touch that is both startling and reverent. The contact is fleeting, never threatening, yet it creates a sense of being acknowledged by the presence of those who once moved through the site. It is as if the spirits of the past are walking alongside the living, offering silent guidance and recognition. Faint silhouettes have also been observed, figures that appear for only moments before fading into darkness. Some resemble ancient Hawaiian warriors, moving with deliberate purpose along the stone pathways and across open courtyards. Their presence is subtle, almost imperceptible, yet unmistakable for those who notice. Clad in traditional attire, carrying the weight of history in posture and movement, they seem to enact the routines of life and vigilance long gone from the island. Observers describe a mixture of awe and respect, a recognition of the sacredness of both the site and the figures that linger there. One evening, a visitor recounted walking along the edge of the stone temple as twilight deepened into night. A rhythmic chant carried across the air, soft but distinct, surrounding the open courtyard with a presence that was palpable. As they moved closer to the main structure, a faint silhouette appeared at the far corner, standing motionless yet radiating a quiet authority. The visitor paused, and the figure slowly moved along the path, fading as their gaze shifted. At the same time, a light brush of air along their shoulder left a subtle impression of touch. The moment was brief, but unforgettable, a tangible connection to the living memory of the place. The architecture and landscape of Pu'uho'ona Oha with ring above Na enhance these experiences. Low stone walls, narrow pathways, and open courtyards carry sound and shadow in ways that make every movement, whisper, or chant more pronounced. The lava fields and ocean breeze contribute to the sensation of distance and isolation, amplifying the perception of presence. Reflections in shallow pools and the flicker of moonlight across the stones create fleeting images that appear to move, suggesting the subtle motion of figures just beyond the edge of sight. Local lore suggests that the lost spirits are the guardians of the Pu'uho'ona, bound to the site by duty, tradition, and the sacred laws of ancient Hawaii. Warriors, priests, and those who sought refuge within its walls may have left enduring imprints of their presence, a form of energy or memory that continues to interact with those who visit. A form of energy or memory that continues to interact with those who visit. The chanting, the fleeting figures, and the brush of invisible hands are interpreted by many as reminders of the sanctity and vigilance that defined life within the refuge. That defined life within the refuge. Visitors often describe an emotional response that is both humbling and profound. The combination of sound, shadow, and touch creates a multisensory experience that engages curiosity, reverence, and awe. The site feels alive with history, as if the boundaries between past and present have softened. Every step along the stone pathways, every whisper of wind, and every faint silhouette becomes part of a story that is at once ancient and immediate. Even in the quietest moments, Pua Hanua Oha with ring above. Nano retains its presence. Shadows shift across stone walls. Chants echo without source. And the subtle sensation of contact lingers in the air. That the lost spirits continue their watch and their rituals. And that the sacredness of the site is maintained by those who inhabit it invisibly. The experience is immersive, connecting the living to the memory and spirit of generations who came before. The lost spirits are not menacing. Their presence is deliberate, measured, and respectful. They seem to move in rhythm with the ancient site, following patterns that echo life once lived. Visitors often describe a sense of being guided, observed, or acknowledged. A gentle but unmistakable reminder that Pu Hanua Oha with ring above. Nana is more than stone and history. It is a living memory, sustained by ritual, presence, and the enduring spirit of those who once walked its grounds. Night deepens over the Pu Hanua. The chanting drifts across open courtyards. Faint silhouettes move along the stone pathways. And invisible hands brush lightly against shoulders. The ocean breeze carries the scent of salt and lava, blending with the presence of the lost spirits. Visitors leave with a profound sense of having touched history. An encounter with guardians who preserve the sanctity and memory of the site. And the awareness that Pu Hanua Oha with ring above. Nana continues to live. Both in stone and in spirit, across the centuries. Kahana Valley on Oahu is a lush, verdant expanse where mountains rise steeply, streams wind quietly through thick undergrowth, and the air is heavy with the scent of damp earth and native vegetation. By day, the valley is alive with the sound of birdsong, the rush of water over rocks, and the rustle of leaves under the feet of hikers and wildlife. Yet, as the sun sinks and shadows lengthen, the valley seems to take on a presence that is more than natural, more than simply the echo of the forest. Visitors to Kahana Valley have reported seeing shadowy figures moving silently among the trees. These forms are often glimpsed at the edges of trails, partially obscured by dense foliage. Yet their movements are unmistakably purposeful. They do not stumble or wander. Instead they glide through the underbrush as if navigating familiar paths invisible to the living. Some observers have described these figures as vaguely human in shape. Yet impossibly dark, blending seamlessly with the shadows around them. The experience is fleeting, sudden, and profoundly disorienting. Auditory phenomena accompany these sightings. Hikers often hear whispers carried on the wind, faint and melodic, speaking in Hawaiian. The voices sometimes call names, repeating words that seem intimately familiar. Those who respond report the voices growing louder, echoing back through the forest as though the shadows themselves are listening and responding. The sound is subtle yet distinct, as if the valley is alive with voices of the past, calling out to the present. One account tells of a hiker moving along a narrow trail after sunset. The forest was dim, filtered through dense foliage and thick vines. Out of the corner of the eye, the hiker noticed a dark form standing motionless near a stream. As the hiker approached, the figure dissolved into the shadows, yet the soft sound of a whispered name lingered in the air. The feeling of being watched persisted, accompanied by the sensation of cool air brushing against the skin where nothing existed. The experience left the hiker both awed and unnerved. A reminder that the forest may harbor forces beyond human understanding. The geography of Kahana Valley amplifies these encounters. The dense forest traps sound, allowing whispers to travel in unexpected directions. Narrow valleys and hidden clearings create spaces where shadows can appear and vanish with startling suddenness. Streams, rocks, and overhanging vegetation distort perception, casting strange patterns of light and dark across trails. Even the smallest movement or faint sound can take on significance, making visitors acutely aware of their surroundings and the unseen presences that may inhabit them. Temperature and atmospheric changes enhance the haunting nature of the valley. Cold drafts sometimes sweep unexpectedly across trails, particularly near streams or shaded hollows. These chills are localized, appearing in patches, as though the forest itself responds to the presence of visitors and shadows alike. Combined with visual and auditory phenomena, the temperature shifts provide a physical layer to the experience, engaging multiple senses and leaving a lasting impression. The shadow figures of Kahana Valley are not violent or aggressive. Observers consistently describe them as silent, deliberate, and distant. Moving through the forest with purpose yet never threatening. The effect is that of a forest preserving memory. Allowing glimpses of lives and presence that existed long before current visitors arrived. Repeated sightings and experiences suggest patterns. The figures often appear near stream crossings, along winding trails, and in areas with dense bamboo or undergrowth. The whispers accompany these appearances, rising and falling in volume as if responding to movement or attention. Hikers have reported that even when no shadow is visible, the feeling of being observed is persistent, a subtle awareness that the forest is alive in ways beyond ordinary perception. By day, Kahana Valley returns to its familiar beauty. Sunlight illuminates the foliage, birds call across streams, and the forest seems peaceful, almost serene. Yet those who have encountered the shadow figures carry the memory of movement, whispers, and unseen presence. The valley becomes more than a scenic location, it is a place where the past continues to exist alongside the present, a living repository of memory, spirit, and nature intertwined. Kahana Valley at night is an immersive experience. Shadowy figures glide through dense trees, whispered names echo along trails. And unseen presences create chills and fleeting sensations. The forest preserves the rhythm of life long gone, allowing visitors brief glimpses into a world where memory and spirit walk alongside the living. The valley reminds all who enter that some places carry histories and energies that cannot be fully explained, leaving impressions that linger long after the forest quiets and the shadows vanish. Leaving impressions that linger long after the forest quiets and the shadows vanish. Waimea Bay on the north shore of Oahu is renowned for its powerful waves and golden sands. By day, surfers challenge the towering surf, their boards slicing through foamy waters, while sunbathers and beachgoers enjoy the warmth and beauty of the ocean. The bay stretches wide, its cliffs rising dramatically, casting shadows across the sand as the tide moves rhythmically. But as night falls and the beach empties, Waimea Bay takes on a different presence. The roar of the surf becomes more commanding, the wind sharper, and the shadows longer, hinting at stories that the daylight does not reveal. Locals speak of a pale figure seen riding the surf after dusk, a silhouette gliding across the waves without the aid of a surfboard. Witnesses describe an unnatural stillness in the air around the apparition, a quiet that is broken only by the crash of waves. Some surfers and beachgoers have felt sudden splashes of icy water on their legs, even when standing well above the tide line, as if the spirit of the drowned surfer reaches out to connect with the living. The legend tells of a young surfer who lost his life in the treacherous waves, caught in a rip current that pulled him under, leaving only the memory of his skill and love for the ocean. Since that fateful night, stories have persisted of his presence, appearing on the water after dark. Witnesses claim he is visible only for fleeting moments. When approached, the pale figure vanishes, leaving behind wet footprints that trail across the sand before disappearing into the tide. Each step seems to tell a story, a trace of a life cut short and a passion. A trace of a life cut short. And a passion that continues beyond the boundaries of the living world. One night, a group of fishermen camping along the cliffs saw the figure riding a wave as the moonlight shimmered on the water. The form was pale, almost translucent, moving with an elegance that seemed impossible for any living surfer. The sound of water amplified and echoing through the empty bay. When they attempted to call out or approach, the figure vanished without a trace, leaving only a faint chill in the air and the glistening marks of wet footprints disappearing back into the ocean. Beach walkers have also shared experiences of sudden sensations of cold. An icy touch that sweeps over the feet and legs without warning. The wind seems to carry whispers of the past. The memory of the drowned surfer etched into the bay itself. The phenomenon is subtle yet undeniable. Even the most skeptical observers cannot dismiss the moments when the figure appears and the water rises as though alive, brushing against those on the sand. These events create an atmosphere where the living are reminded of the presence of the past, of lives intertwined with the ocean and the power it holds. The spirit of the drowned surfer is not malevolent. Witnesses describe the experience as mesmerizing. A quiet connection to someone who loved the waves so intensely that his presence remains long after death. It is a visual and emotional reminder that the energy of the water carries more than movement. It carries memory, passion, and the echoes of life. Imagine standing on the sands of Waimea Bay just after sunset. The waves swell under the light of a rising moon, silvering the crests and sending reflections across the wet sand. A pale figure rising with the next wave, gliding effortlessly as though suspended above the current. For a moment, time seems to pause. The wind carries the faint sound of rushing water, a whispering echo of a life entwined with the surf. You step forward, but when you look again, the figure is gone, leaving behind only the wet traces that vanish into the tide. Many who have witnessed the phenomenon speak of a sense of connection, as though the spirit communicates through the movement of the water and the chill in the air. It is not frightening, but humbling, a reminder of the oceana's power and the enduring presence of those who have loved it deeply. The drowned surfer becomes a symbol of devotion, a spirit that cannot let go of the waves, forever riding, forever visible to those willing to watch and witness. Even when unseen, the bay holds an energy that speaks to this legend. Waves crash with a rhythm that echoes the human heartbeat. The wind carries sounds that mimic whispered conversations. And the sand sometimes glistens with the fleeting impressions of wet footprints. These subtle signs connect visitors to the story, inviting contemplation and respect for the ocean, the risks it holds, and the lives it has claimed. To encounter the drowned surfer is to experience a blend of beauty and melancholy. It is to witness a spirit at peace within the world that shaped their life, moving across the surf with the ease and freedom of someone fully at home in the water. Observers are reminded of the power of nature, the fragility of life, and the ways in which memory persists beyond the boundaries of mortality. Waimea Bay is more than a scenic location. It is a place where history, memory, and legend meet. The drowned surfer rides the waves under moonlight, leaving wet footprints that vanish into the tide, reminding those on shore that the ocean is alive, not just with water and wind, but with the stories of those who have loved it so completely. that even death cannot claim them entirely. Molokai's cliffs rise sharply from the ocean, jagged and imposing, their edges carved over centuries by wind and waves. By day, hikers and sightseers marvel at the view, the endless expanse of water below, and the vertical walls that challenge even the most skilled climbers. The sheer magnitude of these cliffs commands respect, and at night, the atmosphere changes entirely. Darkness envelopes the crags, waves crash far below, and a quiet energy permeates the air, a presence that has been described by many who dare to venture near after sunset. Ghostly silhouettes climb the sheer cliffs at night. Observers recount seeing figures moving along the vertical walls, faint outlines that contrast against the moonlit stone. The climbers appear skilled and deliberate, tracing the same routes one might imagine human climbers taking, yet they leave no gear, no marks, and no trace of human activity. The silhouettes are fleeting, vanishing when approached or when a viewer attempts to focus, leaving only the impression that the cliffs are alive with movement beyond the physical realm. Those standing near the base or along ledges report hearing subtle sounds, the soft scrape of metal against rock, the occasional slap of fabric against stone, and the low, rhythmic whisper of ropes moving. One visitor described a late evening trek along the cliff edge. The sky was clear, and the stars reflected faintly on the ocean below. As he paused to take in the view, he noticed faint movements high above, silhouetted against the pale light of the moon. Figures appeared to trace the contours of the cliffs, hands and feet gripping the rock with ease. He heard the soft scraping of ropes and the whisper of fabric. And yet when he called out or tried to focus on the climbers, they vanished into the night. The rustling continued for several minutes, leaving him with the uncanny sense of having witnessed something both real and impossible. The cliffs themselves amplify the phenomenon. The jagged rock faces, sheer drops, and natural acoustics allow faint sounds to carry over long distances. Rustling and scraping noises echo and shift, creating the impression of multiple climbers or movements that defy explanation. Shadows cast by the moon play across the vertical surfaces, further heightening the sensation that the cliffs are inhabited. Even subtle breezes contribute to the effect, carrying sound and scent in ways that make the presence of unseen figures feel tangible. Imagine standing at the base of the cliffs at night. The ocean crashes far below, waves white against dark rock. Moonlight outlines every crag and ledge, casting long shadows that seem to stretch and shift. High above, faint silhouettes trace impossible routes along sheer walls. The scrape of metal, the whisper of ropes, the soft slap of fabric against stonia all accompany the visual presence. A cold wind brushes against your face, carrying the faint scent of salt and mist. Every sense is alert, every sound amplified, and every shadow seems purposeful. It is a moment suspended in time, where history, nature, and the unexplained converge. Visitors consistently report these experiences. Climbers, hikers, and casual observers all describe similar phenomena, silhouettes scaling the cliffs, sounds of climbing gear, and the unmistakable sensation of presence. The experiences create a shared narrative across generations, suggesting that the cliffs retain memory, energy, or spirits of those who may have once scaled or observed them. Each report reinforces the idea that the cliffs are more than stonia, they are alive in some subtle, inexplicable way. Even when the figures vanish, their presence lingers. The rustling continues faintly, shadows shift along the rock faces, and the moonlight seems to follow the traces of movement. Shadows shift along the rock faces, and the moonlight seems to follow the traces of movement. And the moonlight seems to follow the traces of movement. Observers feel the cliffs watching, silent yet active, preserving the essence of climbing, struggle, and determination. Silent yet active, preserving the essence of climbing, struggle, and determination. Preserving the essence of climbing, struggle, and determination. A reminder that nature and history coexist in forms that may be invisible yet deeply felt. Molokai cliffs are more than a natural landmark. They are a space where memory, energy, and the unexplained converge. Ghostly climbers, rustling ropes, and shifting shadows combine to create an experience that is immersive and haunting. Visitors leave with the understanding that these cliffs carry the weight of time and human effort. That some places hold more than the eye can see, and that the echoes of those who once moved through them may persist, quietly climbing, tracing the rock and reminding all who witness them. That the boundary between reality and mystery can be as sheer as the cliffs themselves. Kapalua Bay, on the western shores of Maui, is renowned for its turquoise waters, gentle waves, and golden sands. By day, the bay hums with the activity of swimmers, kayakers, and visitors exploring the coastline. Yet as night falls and the beach grows quiet, a different presence emerges, one that defies explanation and leaves a lasting impression on those fortunate enough to experience it. Visitors have long reported hearing a woman's voice singing across the water. The song is soft, melodic, and haunting, echoing over the bay in a way that seems both intimate and distant. No one is visible, no source appears along the shoreline or in the surrounding trees. Yet the sound persists, carried by the gentle ocean breeze and reflected across the surface of the water. The song often reaches campers and boaters. Tents pitched along the shore or small vessels anchored in the bay are said to carry the sound of the voice directly to those within. It weaves through the air, threading between the rustle of leaves and the lap of waves, as if the bay itself has become a stage for a performance from another time. Listeners describe a sensation that the song is meant for them alone, yet it resonates with anyone who is present, touching a deep, emotional chord that lingers long after the sound fades. One camper recalled lying awake in a tent as the night deepened. The gentle lapping of water against the shore was joined by a faint, lilting melody that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. The voice rose and fell with a cadence that suggested intent, emotion, and longing. As the camper listened, the song shifted in tone, echoing across the bay, and fading as suddenly as it had begun, leaving a profound stillness in its wake. Boaters at anchor have shared similar experiences. They describe the sound of singing drifting across the water, carrying a clarity that seems impossible given the distance from shore. No figure appears on the surface, and no other vessel is present. Yet the voice moves with the waves, wrapping around the boat, enveloping those aboard in its haunting melody. The experience is often described as mesmerizing, emotional, and otherworldly. An intimate encounter with something unseen yet deeply present. The natural environment of Kapalua Bay amplifies the phenomenon. The curvature of the shoreline, the gentle slope of the beach, and the surrounding cliffs create acoustic pockets that carry sound in unusual ways. The stillness of the night, coupled with the rhythm of the ocean, allows the song to travel farther than ordinary noise would. Listeners often describe the voice as ethereal, almost blending with the ambient sounds of water and wind, creating the impression of a presence that is part of the bay itself. Local legend offers explanations rooted in history and culture. Some believe the singing lady is a spirit from centuries past, perhaps a woman who loved the bay and continues to return to it in song. Others suggest the voice may belong to a guardian of the waters, a presence that watches over the bay and those who visit it. Regardless of origin, the song is consistently described as beautiful, haunting, and emotionally stirring, a connection to a past that exists alongside the present. Witnesses often report a sense of both wonder and calm. The song is not threatening or aggressive. Instead, it conveys a sense of longing, presence, and continuity. The voice seems aware of the listeners, attentive to their position on the shore or the water, moving with the tide and responding to the environment in ways that feel intentional yet subtle. The experience can be transformative, creating a memory that remains vivid long after the night has ended. Even when the song fades, its impact lingers. The echo of melody seems to resonate in the mind, intertwining with the sounds of the ocean and the gentle rustle of palm leaves. Those who experience it often describe a heightened awareness of the bay, an intimate connection to its history and its unseen presence. Each note, each rise and fall of the voice, feels deliberate, a message carried across time and space to those willing to listen. Kapalua Bay at night is a place of quiet mystery. The singing lady moves unseen, her voice gliding across the water, threading through tents and boats, touching the hearts of those who hear it. Shadows of moonlight dance on the waves, reflecting the Songai's ethereal quality, and blending the natural and supernatural into a single, unforgettable experience. Visitors leave with a sense of awe, reverence, and a lingering question about the unseen presence that continues to sing across the bay, night after night, preserving a connection between the living and the memory of the place. As darkness deepens, the bay grows still, yet the song lingers in memory. The singing Ladya's voice carries across the water, drifting along the shoreline and through anchored boats, soft yet insistent, intimate yet expansive. Where the past whispers through melody. Where visitors can feel the presence of something unseen. And where the natural beauty of the island is entwined with an enduring, haunting voice that continues to sing across the waters, timeless and ever-present. Hanauma Bay, on the southeastern coast of Oahu, is known for its calm waters, vibrant marine life, and sweeping views of the Pacific Ocean. By day, it attracts snorkelers and tourists, drawn to the colorful reefs and gentle waves. Yet in the early hours before dawn, when mist rises from the surface of the bay and the world is hushed, the scene changes. A quiet, otherworldly presence emerges, transforming the familiar waters into a place of mystery and fleeting wonder. Visitors who arrive at daybreak often report seeing a figure moving across the bay. It is a swimmer, gliding effortlessly through the water with no discernible splash or ripple. The mist hangs low over the surface, obscuring details and softening the contours of the figure, giving it a spectral, dreamlike quality. The swimmer moves with a smooth rhythm, as if propelled by currents invisible to the living, and seems entirely at home in the water. Attempts to approach the figure reveal its elusive nature. As soon as observers move closer, the swimmer disappears, leaving behind only the calm surface of the bay. No disturbance marks its path, no evidence remains of movement through the water, and the mist continues to swirl as if nothing has passed. This sudden vanishing reinforces the sense that the figure is not bound by ordinary rules of physics or human presence. The auditory experience of Hanauma Bay at this hour contributes to the surreal atmosphere. The gentle lapping of waves against the shore is punctuated by occasional calls of seabirds, distant and muted in the early morning mist. Observers often report a sense of quietness that is deeper than ordinary. A silence that heightens awareness and sharpens the perception of the swimmer. The combination of sound, light, and mist creates an immersive environment, in which the figure seems perfectly integrated, both part of the bay and apart from it. One early morning, a visitor arrived at the water's edge as the first light touched the horizon. Mist clung to the surface, and the ocean seemed to stretch endlessly into fog. Suddenly, a shape appeared, moving fluidly across the water. The swimmer's movements were deliberate, graceful, and calm. When the visitor took a step toward the figure, the swimmer faded into the mist, leaving the water unbroken and the air filled only with the soft whisper of waves. The effect was haunting, a reminder that some presences exist just beyond the reach of human observation. The geography of Hanauma Bay enhances the phenomenon. The bay is semi-enclosed, surrounded by steep ridges that trap mist and diffuse light in the early morning. Water reflects the soft glow of dawn, creating a canvas on which the swimmer can appear and vanish seamlessly. The combination of hills, calm waters, and rising fog produces an environment in which perception is heightened and the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Even the slightest motion or shadow can seem amplified, creating the impression of life where none is expected. Temperature and atmosphere play subtle roles in the experience. The coolness of the water and the crisp morning air create an immersive sensory environment. Observers sometimes report a sudden chill when the swimmer appears, a sensation that is localized and immediate. This coolness is often accompanied by the visual of mist curling around the figure, adding to the perception of something not entirely of this world. The interplay of cold, mist, and light creates a multisensory experience that lingers long after the figure has vanished. The figure itself is not threatening. Observers describe a sense of calm and serenity associated with the swimmer. Its movements are purposeful, almost meditative. And there is a feeling of harmony with the water. The phenomenon evokes wonder rather than fear, inviting reflection on the connection between place, history, and the unseen. It is as if the bay preserves the memory of those who have moved through it over time, allowing glimpses of continuity between past and present. Repeated sightings indicate consistency in the appearance of the swimmer. Figures tend to emerge in the early morning hours when mist is present and the water is still. They glide near the center of the bay, maintaining a steady pace, and disappear when approached or when sunlight intensifies. The predictability of timing and behavior suggests a pattern, reinforcing the impression that this is not a chance optical illusion but a persistent, albeit elusive, presence. By mid-morning, the bay returns to its familiar daytime rhythm. Visitors arrive to snorkel among the reefs. The water shimmers with light, and the mist lifts into the warming air. Yet those who have witnessed the swimmer, the quiet of the bay, and the seamless blend of water, mist, and movement, the experience remains with them. A fleeting but vivid reminder of the bay's mysterious and enduring qualities. Haneuma Bay at dawn is more than a scenic overlook. It becomes a liminal space where light, water, and fog merge with the unexplained. The swimmer glides silently, vanishing without trace, leaving observers with a profound sense of awe. The bay reminds all who visit that some mysteries are not meant to be fully understood. That certain presences exist just beyond perception, and that the natural world is intertwined with traces of the unknown, waiting quietly in the morning mist. Polihale Beach, on the western shores of Kauai, stretches endlessly beneath towering cliffs and open sky. By day, the sand is golden and windswept, waves lapping rhythmically against the shore, the horizon stretching far into the Pacific. The beach is remote, its beauty amplified by isolation, and it has long been a destination for those seeking solitude, adventure, or quiet reflection. Yet as the sun dips and shadows lengthen, the beach seems to take on a life of its own. The air grows cooler, the waves sound louder, and something almost imperceptible begins to stir along the shoreline. Visitors have reported a strange phenomenon at abandoned campsites along the beach. Tents left for weeks or months sometimes appear disturbed, as though recently used. Campfires that had long been cold show signs of ashes freshly scattered, and footprints mark the sand, leading to tents and then vanishing mysteriously. Those who witness these signs often hear laughter in the distance, faint and ethereal, and whispers that seem carried on the wind. The beach is empty except for the observer. Some who venture near these tents at night report seeing shadows move just. Figures are indistinct at first, a flicker of movement against the moonlit sand. But they seem to mimic the motions of campers long past. Attempt to approach them causes them to vanish, leaving only the soft impression, and a lingering sense that the beach itself remembers the lives and moments once lived in these temporary shelters. A group of hikers once spent an evening exploring the dunes near the cliffs. As darkness fell, they noticed flickers of light and soft giggles coming from a campsite that had been abandoned for months. The air was still, and the sound seemed to swirl around them, moving from tent to tent as if unseen campers were playing some silent game. The hikers approached cautiously, but every shadow and flicker of light disappeared when they came closer. The wind carried the whispers, teasing the senses and leaving the group with an unsettling feeling that they had intruded upon a place where past and present intertwined. Legend has it that the phantom campers are spirits of those who once enjoyed the beach, bound to the site by memories of laughter, adventure, and connection. Some say they are the souls of travelers who never left, their joy lingering in the space they once occupied. Others believe the phenomena are a reflection of the beach itself, a place that retains the essence of its visitors and replays it for those who pay attention. Whatever the explanation, encounters are brief, subtle, and filled with a sense of wonder. And are reminders that Polihale Beach is more than sand and surf. It is a repository of memory. Witnesses often describe a mixture of curiosity and reverence, a feeling of stepping into a space where the ordinary rules of time and presence are suspended. The laughter and whispers carry a gentle rhythm, as if inviting observers to remember the joy and companionship that once filled the beach. Shadows move with grace and purpose, circling tents, flickering along the dunes, and disappearing into the night with the tide. As the night wears on, the atmosphere thickens, and the air grows heavy with an unseen presence. Imagine standing on the shore at night, the ocean stretching endlessly into darkness. The wind brushes against your face, carrying the scent of salt. The faint crackle of fire from a campsite that has been abandoned for weeks. You hear a soft laugh, faint but distinct, as though a group of friends is nearby, sharing a quiet joke. Shadows flit across the sand, moving between tents and along the dunes. You step forward, heart racing, but the movement vanishes, leaving only footprints in the sand that are gone by morning, erased by tide and wind. Observers often speak of the phantom campers with a sense of awe. The beach, already isolated and majestic, becomes a place of reflection and wonder. There is a palpable sense of continuity, as though the laughter and whispers connect past visitors with those who arrive today. The tents, shadows, and subtle sounds become a bridge across time, reminding anyone present that the human spirit lingers in places that have been touched by joy, even long after the people themselves have gone. For those who explore Polihale Beach after dark, the experience is one of quiet observation. Watch the dunes and tents carefully, listen for laughter carried on the wind, and notice the movement of shadows just beyond the reach of the firelight. These experiences serve as a reminder that some places retain the essence of those who visited, creating an enduring connection between past and present. Polihale Beach is more than a remote stretch of sand. It is a sanctuary of memory and presence. The phantom campers remind visitors that joy and human connection leave a lasting imprint. The laughter, whispers, and fleeting shadows are not meant to frighten, but to inspire reflection and reverence. In the quiet of night, the beach becomes a space where stories linger, moments are replayed, and the essence of those who once camped here continues to roam, silently, across the dunes and tents, forever part of Polihale's timeless landscape. Kalaupapa Peninsula on the island of Molokai is a place of quiet reflection, steep cliffs, and history etched into every path and building. By day, the sun illuminates the rugged landscape, the turquoise waters of the Pacific crashing against rocky shores far below. The small settlement is serene, almost peaceful, with narrow paths winding between abandoned buildings and the faint traces of past lives. Visitors walking during daylight hours may feel the weight of history, yet the atmosphere is gentle, contemplative. At night, the peninsula transforms. Faint figures are reported roaming the paths, moving slowly, almost imperceptibly. Shadows shift along the ground and against the walls of abandoned homes and medical facilities. Some visitors describe the impression of people walking in silence, passing from building to building, along the very paths that once connected the colony. The presence is subtle but undeniable, as if the spirits of the past continue to inhabit the spaces they once knew. Visitors hear soft coughing and whispers along abandoned hallways. The sounds are faint, carried by the wind, echoing through empty corridors. A cough here, a whisper there, voices murmuring words indistinct yet intimate, creating a haunting sense of human presence. The hallways, once filled with caretakers, patients, and families, now resonate with echoes of the past. Even the faintest sound evokes the lives and struggles of those who lived here, the isolation, the care, and the enduring hope that sustained them. Buildings constructed of wood and stone, weathered by salt air and time, carry sound unusually far. Empty hallways allow even the softest noises to reverberate. While open windows let in the wind, carrying whispers along paths and corridors. The narrow streets and walkways create natural acoustics. Where footsteps, coughs, and murmurs seem to follow, always just at the edge of perception, never fully visible yet undeniably real. Imagine walking the colony at night. The moon illuminates the jagged cliffs and pathways, casting long shadows across abandoned cottages and medical buildings. A soft cough drifts out, followed by whispered words that are almost unintelligible. Figures may appear at the edge of vision, glimpsed for only a moment before vanishing. Every sense is heightened, every shadow seems alive, and the air is thick with the memory of lives lived in isolation, courage, and resilience. Witness accounts are consistent. From hikers to historians, visitors to the peninsula report similar experiences. Fleeting figures moving along paths, faint voices and coughs. And a persistent sense of being watched or followed. These experiences create a collective understanding that the spirits of the colony linger. Not malevolent but observant. A quiet testimony to the people who once lived and suffered here. Even when the spirits are unseen, their presence is felt. The soft wind carries an almost musical cadence, the occasional scrape of a floorboard, or the distant sound of a shutter swinging. Every element of the peninsula, from the paths to the cliffs to the buildings, seems infused with memory. Those who walk here at night report a deep sense of connection, a tangible link to the past that cannot be measured but can be felt with every step. Ka Lae is more than a historical site. It is a vessel for memory, holding echoes of those who endured illness, isolation, and resilience. The spirits that roam its paths remind visitors that history is not only recorded in documents or photographs but in the very spaces where life unfolded. The faint coughing, the whispers, and the shifting silhouettes are not merely stories, they are reminders that the human spirit leaves traces that linger long after life itself has moved on. Visitors leave with a mixture of awe and contemplation. The peninsula, its cliffs, and abandoned structures imprint a deep sense of respect for the lives once lived here. Those who witnessed the subtle signs of presentia figures along the paths, murmured words, and soft echoesa, carry home an awareness of endurance, of humanity persisting even in isolation, and of history made tangible through experience. Ka Lae Peninsula is a hauntingly beautiful place. By day it is serene, bathed in sunlight and sea breezes. By night, it becomes a testament to memory, endurance, and the presence of those who came before. The leper colony spirits, ever wandering the paths and hallways, offer a quiet but profound connection to the past. They serve as reminders that history can be felt as well as seen, and that some places retain more than their physical structura, they hold the essence of the people who lived, loved, and endured within them. The Wailua River on the island of Kauai is a place of lush beauty, where palm trees line the banks. Where the water glides gently over rocks and sand. By day, visitors glide along its surface in canoes or kayaks, observing the tropical scenery. And the wildlife that calls the river home. But as night falls, the river takes on a different character. One that draws visitors into an atmosphere of quiet mystery and subtle suspense. Many who navigate the river after dark report seeing a small canoe drifting silently along the water. It moves with gentle grace, cutting through the reflection of moonlight without any visible occupant. Lanterns hang aboard the craft, swinging softly with the motion of the current, casting an ethereal glow across the river. The sight is mesmerizing, a gentle movement that seems alive yet entirely detached from the world of the living. The sound of soft paddling often accompanies the drifting canoe. It is rhythmic, measured, and deliberate, echoing across the water in a way that seems impossible for a boat that carries no one. Observers describe a haunting clarity to the noise, as if someone were moving quietly and purposefully through the river. The paddling blends with the sounds of flowing water, rustling leaves, and distant calls of wildlife, creating a soundscape that is both serene and unsettling. One visitor recounted drifting near a bend in the river as the night deepened. The air was cool and still, the water reflecting the stars above. A faint glow appeared ahead, moving slowly along the current. As the visitor approached, they saw the small canoe, lanterns swinging gently and casting rippling light across the water. As the visitor approached, they saw the small canoe, lanterns swinging gently and casting rippling light across the water. The paddle moved in quiet rhythm, yet no figure was visible. Moments later, the canoe glided past and disappeared into the darkness, leaving only the soft echo of paddling behind. The river's geography enhances the experience. Narrow channels, overhanging trees, and the curvature of the riverbank create pockets where sound carries and light reflects unpredictably. Shadows from lanterns move across the water in ways that suggest motion beyond the canoe itself. Mist rising from the surface adds a layer of mystery, softening the edges of the boat and making its movement appear almost otherworldly. These natural elements combine to create an environment where perception is heightened, and the supernatural seems plausible. Local legend holds that the canoe belongs to a spirit, a presence tied to the river for reasons lost to history. Some suggest it is the remnant of an ancient traveler, gliding along the same waters once navigated in life. Others believe it is a guardian of the river, a watchful presence that drifts silently to preserve the sanctity and memory of Wailua. Regardless of origin, the canoe appears consistently, and its presence has been reported by multiple witnesses over decades. Observers often describe a mixture of awe and unease. The drifting canoe is quiet and deliberate, its movement almost meditative. The lanterns cast soft light across ripples in the water, creating a hypnotic visual effect that draws attention and curiosity. The gentle paddling echoes through the night, blending with the natural sounds of the river and giving the impression of a presence that is both separate from and intimately connected to the environment. Even when the canoe is no longer visible, its effects linger. The soft echo of paddling seems to fade slowly, leaving an impression on the mind and senses of those who witnessed it. Observers often report heightened awareness of the river, the surrounding trees, and the movement of water. As if the ghostly presence has left a trace on the atmosphere itself. The memory of the canoe remains vivid, a spectral image that continues to glide through the imagination long after the river is empty. Visitors also note a profound sense of calm and reverence. The canoe does not approach aggressively, and the spirit does not interact in threatening ways. Its presence is quiet, deliberate, and subtle, evoking feelings of reflection and respect. Some feel a gentle awareness of being watched or guided, an intangible sense of connection to the past and the natural world. The river becomes a bridge between the living and the unseen, where time and presence fold into one continuous experience. The Wailua River at night is transformed by the presence of the canoe ghost. Shadows move with the lanterns, soft paddling echoes across the water. Visitors leave with an impression of having witnessed something beyond ordinary perception. An encounter with a spirit that is deeply tied to the Rivera's history and beauty. The experience is immersive, contemplative, and unforgettable. A reminder that even in a serene and natural place, mysteries endure. As darkness deepens and the stars reflect on the Rivera's surface, the small canoe glides across the water, its lanterns casting gentle light and rippling reflections. Soft paddling sounds echo through the night, fading slowly into the ambient sounds of the river. Wailua River continues to hold its secret, a place where the living can witness the presence of the unseen, and where the canoe ghost drifts silently, carrying with it the memory, mystery, and quiet majesty of the Big Island at night. Palolo Valley, on the northern coast of Hawaii's Big Island, is a place where the sound of birds, the rush of water over rocks, and the wind sweeping along the cliffs. Hikers traverse the trails, drawn to breathtaking views of the coastline and the solitude of the landscape. Yet as fog rolls in from the ocean and settles into the valley, a different world emerges, one that feels alive with unseen presence and echoes of the past. Those who visit the valley in early morning or late evening often speak of figures walking silently through the mist. These shapes are humanoid in form, but they move without sound, their steps absorbed by the dense fog. Observers describe them as shadowy, sometimes appearing only as outlines or darkened silhouettes that fade in and out of view. The mist enhances their presence, creating an otherworldly atmosphere where perception becomes uncertain and ordinary movements seem extraordinary. Visitors frequently report the sensation of cold hands brushing their shoulders or arms, as if unseen guides or watchers passed nearby. The touch is brief but unmistakable, sending a chill through the body and heightening the sense of awareness. Many describe the feeling as simultaneously startling and calming, as though the figures are connected to the land and the history embedded within it rather than intending harm. Auditory experiences accompany the visual phenomena. Whispers drift through the fog, soft and melodic, often in Hawaiian. The voices sometimes call out names or speak phrases that cannot be fully understood, yet they carry the weight of familiarity and ancient rhythm. Some hikers have reported that when they respond or speak aloud, the whispers grow louder, circling them with a presence that feels attentive and alive. These sounds add layers of immersion, making the valley feel like a living, breathing entity steeped in memory. One hiker described standing at the edge of a stream where fog pooled thickly among the rocks. Out of the mist, a figure emerged, gliding silently toward the trail. The observer felt a sudden brush on the shoulder and a faint murmur in Hawaiian carried on the breeze. Stepping forward, the figure vanished, leaving the fog swirling and the stream calm once more. The experience was disorienting yet awe-inspiring, a reminder that Palolo Valley carries secrets that the eye cannot always perceive. The valley's geography amplifies these encounters. Deep ravines, dense vegetation, and narrow trails create natural channels for sound and sight. The fog diffuses light and casts shadows in shifting patterns, making figures appear and disappear in ways that defy ordinary perception. Even slight movements or sounds in the landscape can be interpreted as presence, turning the valley into a stage where the seen and unseen interact seamlessly. The valley becomes a stage where the seen and unseen interact seamlessly. Temperature shifts contribute to the phenomenon. Sudden chills often coincide with sightings of the figures or the whispers in the fog. The cold seems localized, brushing across the skin like a signal of proximity. Combined with the visual and auditory cues, this sensory experience creates a tangible connection to the unseen, leaving visitors with a profound awareness of something beyond the ordinary. The shadowy figures are consistently described as calm and deliberate. They move with purpose, following paths through the mist, along streams, or across cliffs. Observers report no aggression or threat, only a sense of silent presence. The figures appear tied to the land, perhaps manifestations of memory, guardianship, or ancient rituals, performing movements that continue long after the people who once walked these trails have passed. Repeated experiences in Palolo Valley indicate patterns. Figures are most often seen in the early morning or late evening, near streams or along narrow trails where mist collects. The whispers occur in similar locations, and cold touches are reported consistently in certain areas. This repetition reinforces the impression that the valley preserves the actions and memories of those who came before, replaying them through shadow and fog for those who enter. By daylight, the valley transforms. Sunlight dissolves the fog, revealing green cliffs, sparkling water, and birds in motion. The trail appears as ordinary as ever, and the silent figures vanish entirely. Yet those who have encountered the mist walker carry memories of movement in fog, the feel of cold touch, and the echo of whispered voices. Palolo Valley becomes more than a scenic location, it is a space where past and present converge, where the land itself seems alive with memory and spirit. Palolo Valley under fog is a liminal space. Shadowy figures move silently, whispers in Hawaiian drift through the air. And cold touches brush against the living. The valley preserves the memory of those who came before, allowing glimpses into a world intertwined with nature, spirit, and time. Visitors leave with the sense that some presences endure beyond life. Walking with the fog, keeping the valley alive with unseen history and haunting beauty. Kilauea Lighthouse on the northern tip of Kauai stands as a sentinel against the crashing waves and swirling winds of the Pacific Ocean. Built decades ago, its white walls and towering structure command attention, perched on rugged cliffs overlooking the endless sea. By day, the lighthouse guides ships safely past jagged reefs, a symbol of vigilance and maritime care. But as evening falls and fog begins to roll in from the ocean, a different presence emerges, one tied to the history of the lighthouse and the people who once kept its light burning. One tied to the history of the lighthouse and the people who once kept its light burning. Visitors have reported seeing a tall figure on the observation platform, dressed in what appears to be an old lighthouse uniform. The figure stands rigid and watchful, gazing across the ocean as though scanning for ships or warning of unseen dangers. Some witnesses describe the air around the platform growing colder, a sudden chill that seems to settle in their bones. The fog thickens, swirling mysteriously around the railings and creeping along the cliffs, as if drawn to the watcher himself. The presence is unmistakable, and yet, despite careful observation, the figure vanishes when approached. The legend of the watcher has been passed down through generations. It is said that he is the spirit of a keeper who once dedicated his life to the safety of sailors, patrolling the lighthouse tirelessly during storms and foggy nights. After his death, some believe he could not leave the place he served so faithfully. His spirit remains, continuing the vigil, observing the ocean and cliffs as if ensuring that no harm comes to those at sea or on the rocks below. Encounters with the watcher are fleeting, yet vivid, leaving witnesses with a sense of being observed, a feeling of accountability and history lingering in the fog. One evening, a group of tourists visiting the lighthouse noticed the figure at the platform. At first, it appeared as a silhouette against the fading light of sunset. Tall and still, uniform crisp and darkened by shadows. They watched silently, captivated by the figure's presence. A sudden breeze carried the scent of salt and an unexpected chill. And the lamp atop the lighthouse glowed faintly, even though it had long been turned off. The tourists approached slowly, trying to catch a closer look, but the watcher had vanished, leaving only the fog rolling around the platform, and the echo of distant waves crashing against the cliffs. Some describe the presence as both imposing and comforting. The watcher is not seen as malevolent, rather, he embodies dedication and vigilance. Witnesses report a quiet sense of reassurance, as if the lighthouse itself has come alive with the memory of its former keeper. The fog and the sea seem to respond to him, shifting and swirling around the platform, a dance of mist that highlights his form and then erases it without warning. Those who have experienced the encounter often speak of a lingering feeling, a quiet connection to the history of Kilauea Lighthouse, and the people who devoted their lives to it. Often speak of a lingering feeling, a quiet connection to the history of Kilauea Lighthouse and the people who devoted their lives to it. The lighthouse platform itself becomes a stage for the spectral presence. At times, the watcher is seen standing at the railing, surveying the horizon. Other times, he appears closer to the lamp, hands resting lightly on the railing, as if ensuring that the mechanism he once maintained continues its work. The glow of the light, visible despite being turned off, seems to follow his gaze, illuminating parts of the platform while leaving the rest cloaked in fog. Visitors have remarked that the effect is hauntingly beautiful, a vision of commitment transcending life and death. Walking the cliffs at night near Kilauea Lighthouse, one can feel the weight of history in the air. The ocean crashes with relentless rhythm, and the wind carries both the scent of salt and the faint memory of footsteps on the platform. When fog rolls in, thick and swirling, shadows take on strange shapes. Those who pause at the edge of the observation area sometimes glimpse the watcher, standing tall and silent. The presence is fleeting. When approached, the figure disappears, leaving only the mist curling around the railings and a coldness that lingers long after. The story of the watcher reminds visitors that Kilauea Lighthouse is more than stone and light. It is a place imbued with memory and vigilance. The spirit is a guardian of the cliffs, the ocean, and the vessels navigating the treacherous waters below. Encounters are not meant to frighten, but to inspire reflection on the lives of those who served here, the dedication required to keep the light burning, and the persistence of presence beyond the mortal realm. Imagine standing on the observation platform at twilight. The sun dips low over the ocean, and fog begins to roll in, thick and soft, obscuring the horizon. A sudden chill brushes your face, and the lamp atop the lighthouse glows faintly, though it has been long extinguished. There, on the platform, a tall figure appears, uniform dark and crisp, posture rigid and watchful. His gaze sweeps the cliffs and ocean. You take a step closer, heart quickened, but when you blink, he is gone. Only fog remains, swirling mysteriously, as if carrying his presence across the rocks. The watcher of Kilauea Lighthouse embodies a silent dedication. A memory preserved in the mist and sea breeze. He is a guardian, a sentinel, and a reminder of the past intertwined with the present. Visitors leave the cliffs with the image of the figure etched in their minds. The faint glow of a light that was never on. And the lingering feeling of being observed by someone whose devotion transcends the boundaries of life. The lighthouse stands as it always has, a beacon for sailors and a home for a watcher whose vigil never ends, continuing across the fog, the cliffs, and the endless waves of Kauai's northern shore. Hana lava fields stretch endlessly across Maui's eastern coastline, a stark expanse of blackened rock shaped by centuries of volcanic activity. By day, the fields are imposing, jagged, and silent, the rough surfaces glinting faintly under the tropical sun. Trails wind through the hardened lava, and hikers navigate the uneven terrain with care, aware of the sharp rocks and hidden crevices. Yet when night falls, the landscape transforms, adopting a presence that is difficult to describe and impossible to ignore. Shadows wander across the black lava at night. Observers report seeing faint, shifting shapes moving across the lava fields, gliding over jagged surfaces as if traversing paths known only to them. These forms are shadowy and indistinct, often appearing humanoid yet elongated or distorted in subtle ways. They move with purpose, tracing routes that sometimes follow existing trails and at other times seem to chart new paths across the unbroken terrain. Approaching the shadows reveals nothing, leaving only the impression of somania or something moving where no one should be. Visitors hear footsteps crunching on rocks with no one present. The sound is unmistakable, the distinct crunch and crackle of rock beneath a human foot. The noises carry across the fields, echoing in the open spaces and among the ridges of hardened lava. Hikers who pause to listen often feel a presence near them, a subtle pressure in the air or a flicker of movement in the corner of their vision. Yet when they turn to look, there is nothing. The footsteps continue, persistent, unaccompanied by any visible form, leaving a chilling impression of solitude and the unseen. The black rocks stretch for miles, with ridges, crevices, and scattered vegetation creating natural corridors and acoustics. Sounds travel differently across this terrain. A single step or shuffle can carry for long distances, sometimes creating the illusion of multiple travelers moving in unison. Shadows cast by the moon shift across the jagged landscape, appearing to advance or retreat with the subtle changes of light and cloud. Every observer becomes acutely aware of the isolation, the textures, and the echoes, as if the land itself participates in the experience. Imagine walking the fields under a moonlit sky. The volcanic rocks gleam faintly in the silver light, rough edges casting long, angular shadows across the ground. A soft breeze carries the scent of sulfur and the distant ocean, blending with the occasional whisper of rustling lava fragments. Far off, faint figures drift across the terrain, moving steadily and deliberately. Footsteps crunch intermittently on the rocks, close enough to suggest proximity yet impossibly untraceable. The air feels alive, charged with the memory of those who walked before and the sensation of unseen observation. Witnesses describe consistent experiences. Hikers, photographers, and local guides all recount similar encounters. Shadows gliding over the black rock, footsteps echoing with no visible source, and the strange awareness of being followed or observed. The stories span decades, creating a collective memory of a presence tied inexorably to the lava fields. Some speak of fleeting glimpses of an explorer in old clothing, carrying tools, or walking with a slow, purposeful gait. While others hear faint murmurs and whispers amidst the stillness of the night. Even when the figures vanish, their presence remains. The shadows disappear when approached, and the footsteps cease. But the sense of being watched lingers. Observers often feel a chill or a subtle vibration underfoot. As if the rocks themselves remember the movements of those who once explored them. The stillness that follows is both eerie and reverent. A reminder of the continuity of the land. And the traces left by those who walked it long before. The Hana lava fields are more than a geological formation. They are a landscape imbued with memory and presence, where history and mystery converge. The shadows, the footsteps, and the shifting light create an experience that is both immersive and haunting. Visitors leave with the knowledge that the land carries echoes of past explorers, of lives and journeys now invisible but not forgotten. The fields remind us that some places retain more than their physical forma, they preserve the essence of those who moved through them, silently tracing paths across the darkened rock. To walk the lava fields at night is to step into a living memory. The black expanse, the faint figures, and the resonant footsteps transform the environment into a stage for the unseen. Every observer becomes part of the story, walking alongside the echoes of the past. The lost explorer of Hana lava fields is not malevolent but persistent. A testament to curiosity, determination, and the enduring connection between humans and the land. In the quiet of the night, amid shadows and the soft crunch of rock, the past and present converge. And the fields hold their secrets, waiting for those willing to witness them. The summit of Mauna Kea rises high above the Big Island, its slopes cloaked in clouds by day. Its slopes cloaked in clouds by day and bathed in starlight by night, creating an atmosphere both serene and imposing. By day, scientists and astronomers traverse the summit to study the heavens, setting up telescopes and equipment to peer into the depths of the universe. By night, when the summit is quiet and most visitors have descended, a different presence is said to emerge among the observatories and instruments. Many who have stayed late report seeing a faint figure near the telescopes. The apparition is subtle, almost indistinct, yet unmistakable. It stands near the equipment, sometimes adjusting controls or peering into the eyepiece. Then vanishes before it can be approached. Witnesses describe a feeling of being observed, a cold presence that lingers even after the figure disappears. The summit's thin air seems to amplify the sensation, creating a quiet tension that is both thrilling and unsettling. Alongside the visual phenomena, some visitors report hearing whispers carried on the wind. The murmurs are often fragmented sequences of numbers or coordinates, as if the figure is silently recording or calculating astronomical data. The sounds are faint, blending with the whistling of high-altitude wind and the distant rustle of equipment, yet they are distinct enough to catch the attention of anyone nearby. Listeners often describe a sense of being guided, or perhaps observed, as if the ghostly presence is aware of their attention. As if the ghostly presence is aware of their attention. One astronomer recalled working late at a telescope while the summit lay under a blanket of stars. As they adjusted the equipment, a shadow appeared nearby, flickering in the corner of their vision. The figure stood motionless for several moments, then leaned toward the telescope as if inspecting data. A sudden chill brushed across their shoulders. And the faint whisper of numbers echoed in the air. When they turned fully to face the figure, it vanished completely, leaving only the crisp mountain night and the blinking lights of the observatory. The summit's environment enhances these experiences. At such elevation, the cold is intense, the wind swift, and the night sky impossibly clear. Shadows are deep, reflections stark, and sound carries oddly across the flat expanses between telescopes. The combination of temperature, acoustics, and isolation creates conditions where subtle phenomena are amplified, making the presence of the astronomer ghost feel tangible and immersive. Local lore and scientific anecdote intertwine in stories of the figure. Some suggest that the ghost is the spirit of an astronomer who spent decades at Mauna Kea, devoted to study and observation, returning to ensure calculations and observations continue. Others propose it may be a residual energy left behind by a life devoted to the stars, echoing across time in fleeting glimpses and whispers. Regardless of origin, reports consistently describe the figure near telescopes, cold air accompanying its presence, and murmured sequences of numbers in the wind. Observers often speak of a mixture of awe and unease. The astronomer ghost is not threatening. It does not interact aggressively but is meticulous in its motions, as if performing a duty that transcends life and death. The cold presence, whispers, and fleeting glimpses create an atmosphere of quiet reverence, an awareness of the dedication and knowledge embodied by someone who devoted their life to understanding the universe. Visitors describe a feeling of being momentarily connected to something vast, beyond both human and temporal limitations. Even in the absence of visual sightings, subtle signs persist. Sudden gusts of cold wind, faint numbers carried on the breeze, and small disturbances near telescopes contribute to a sense of ongoing presence. The summit itself seems alive with memory, preserving echoes of human endeavor, alongside the eternal motion of the stars. The effect is cumulative, drawing observers into a space where perception and imagination blend seamlessly, making each encounter memorable and profound. The astronomer ghost appears deliberate, moving with care and purpose. Figures linger near telescopes, adjusting invisible controls or examining unseen data. Numbers, coordinates, or faint sequences of calculation float on the wind, giving the impression that observation continues in another dimension. Witnesses often describe a heightened awareness of their surroundings, noticing details they might otherwise overlook, from the alignment of telescopes to the reflection of starlight on metallic surfaces. The summit of Mauna Kea remains a place where the past and present converge. Telescopes and observatories stand as monuments to human curiosity, while the astronomer ghost preserves the devotion and focus of those who spent countless nights studying the sky. The cold presence, whispers of numbers, and fleeting figure serve as reminders that knowledge, dedication, and memory endure beyond life, inhabiting spaces where passion once thrived. Night at Mauna Kea deepens, and the stars blanket the sky in brilliance. The air is sharp and cold, and the wind carries subtle, imperceptible sounds. A faint figure appears near the instruments, numbers echo softly across the plateau, and the chill of presence brushes against those who remain. The astronomer ghost endures, a spectral observer of the heavens, maintaining a silent vigil that bridges time, space, and the boundless curiosity of humanity. Beneath the infinite expanse of stars. The Lanai pine forest on the Hawaiian island of Lanai stretches across rolling hills, its tall trees standing in rigid lines, their needles whispering with every wind. By day, sunlight filters through the canopy, illuminating patches of moss and the soft forest floor. The air carries the scent of pine and earth, and the forest seems peaceful, inviting hikers and nature lovers to explore its trails. But as night falls, a different presence emerges, transforming the forest into a place where the ordinary becomes uncanny, and shadows take on life of their own. Visitors who enter the forest after sunset often speak of figures moving silently among the pines. These shapes are humanoid in outline but impossible to fully define, blending into the darkness and moving with a deliberate, patient precision. They glide between the trees, avoiding open areas, never stumbling, and leaving no footprints or traces. Observers describe a sensation of being watched, as though unseen eyes track every step, every breath, every movement through the forest. Auditory experiences accompany these sightings. The snapping of twigs echoes unnaturally loud in the stillness, and low, guttural growls vibrate through the air. The sounds are animalistic yet unfamiliar, impossible to assign to any known creature of the forest. The combination of sound and movement creates tension, a primal awareness that something is present, intelligent, and aware. One visitor recounted walking along a narrow trail when the snapping of twigs began just beyond the tree line. A low growl followed, vibrating through the soles of the boots. Shadows flickered at the edge of vision. And the sense of being stalked became palpable. When the visitor stopped and called out, no response came, only silence. And the continued impression of being observed. The forest seemed alive with intention. The trees forming a maze in which something waited and watched patiently. The forest's terrain enhances the eerie atmosphere. Slopes rise steeply and then fall into hidden ravines. Mist sometimes rolls down the hills, softening shapes and concealing movement. The interplay of light, shadow, and fog makes perception uncertain, and even familiar trails appear unfamiliar in the darkness. Every sound seems amplified, and every movement carries an invisible weight. Temperature shifts contribute to the experience. Sudden cold drafts sweep across the forest floor. Even on otherwise warm nights, observers often feel a chill brush against their skin, as though something has passed close by. The cold is accompanied by the low growls and snapping sounds, adding a physical layer to the encounter and reinforcing the sense of presence. The combination of temperature, sound, and shadow engages the senses fully, creating a multisensory impression of the forest as a living, sentient place. The figures, often called the hunter, are never aggressive, yet their presence is imposing. They move with purpose and intent, following trails or paths between the trees, yet remain unseen when approached. Their presence is unsettling precisely because it is deliberate and aware. Visitors describe a mix of fear and fascination, a recognition that the forest holds a being that exists by rules beyond human understanding. Patterns in sightings suggest a consistency. The figures are most often seen late at night, between moonrise and the darkest hours before dawn. They appear in dense clusters of trees or along hidden trails where visibility is low. The snapping of twigs and growls are reported in similar locations, reinforcing the idea that the hunter follows specific routes or routines, weaving through the forest as if it were a living network designed for unseen movement. By day, the forest returns to its ordinary appearance. Sunlight illuminates the pine needles. Birds call among the branches. And the trails feel safe and familiar. Yet those who have encountered the hunter carry a memory of cold, sound, and shadow. The forest feels charged with presence, and even daylight seems to hold traces of the night's mysteries. The pine forest becomes more than a scenic trail. It is a place where awareness of the unseen is heightened, where the natural world intersects with the inexplicable, and the past and the unknown linger in quiet spaces. Lanai Pine Forest at night is a realm of shadow and sound. Figures move silently between the trees. Low growls resonate across the forest floor. And twigs snap under invisible steps. Visitors sense they are being followed and watched. And the forest responds with subtle but unmistakable signs of life beyond the human. The hunter does not reveal itself fully, leaving only the impression of deliberate motion and a presence that is both timeless and watchful. It is a reminder that some places, no matter how familiar by day, carry histories and forces that remain hidden, waiting in the shadows between the trees. Molokini Crater, located just off the southern coast of Maui, is a stunning crescent-shaped caldera. Surrounded by the clear, vibrant waters of the Pacific Ocean. Known for its incredible underwater visibility, the area is a haven for divers seeking to explore the diverse marine life that inhabits its waters. By day, the crater teems with colorful fish, sea turtles, and vibrant coral reefs, offering a breathtaking display of Naturia's beauty. But as the sun sets and the water grows still, the atmosphere of Molokini Crater transforms. Nightfall brings with it a sense of mystery, and with it, strange reports from divers who venture into its depths. At night, when the waters of Molokini calm and the stars reflect on the surface, divers have reported unusual and unsettling experiences. Pale figures, resembling human forms, have been seen gliding through the water alongside them. The figures do not cast reflections in the water, no shadows are seen beneath the surface. And no bubbles rise from them as they swim. At night, when the waters of Molokini calm and the stars reflect on the surface, divers have reported unusual and unsettling experiences. It is as though the figures are not truly part of the living world, but rather spirits swimming silently through the depths. These ghostly divers have been described as pale and translucent, with soft outlines. With soft outlines that blur and shift with the current. Their movements appear fluid and purposeful, as though they are engaged in some silent ritual. Or simply gliding alongside the divers without any intention to interact. Despite the eerie presence, the figures do not seem to be threatening, rather, they are often accompanied by a strange sense of calm. As if they belong to the water itself. One diver recalled a particularly haunting experience when, after descending into the crater's depths, they noticed something moving just out of their peripheral vision. At first, they thought it was another diver, but when they turned to look, the figure vanished into the darkness. Only the sound of bubbles rising from the depths remained, though no one was near to produce them. The diver, feeling an uneasy chill, could not shake the sensation that they were being watched. But when they glanced around, there were no other divers in sight. The strangest part of these reports is the consistent description of bubbles. Divers often find themselves surrounded by bubbles that seem to rise without any explanation. As if the very water itself is exhaling, yet no one is swimming or moving to cause the disturbance. Some have said it feels as though the water is alive, breathing with them, a companion in the dark depths of the crater. Another diver, who had explored Molokini Crater countless times, experienced the feeling of something swimming just below them. The sensation was subtle at first, like a soft current or the shifting of water. But as the diver turned, they glimpsed the pale figure swimming in perfect synchronization with their movements. As they tried to approach, the figure vanished into the water, leaving only the echo of the bubbles rising to the surface. Despite searching the area, no one else was in sight. The feeling of being followed remained, however, as if the spirit was lingering just out of reach. For many who have experienced these sightings, the encounter is not terrifying but rather an intriguing reminder of the mysteries that lie hidden beneath the waves. The water of Molokini Crater, rich with marine life and ancient volcanic history, seems to hold secrets that reach far beyond the living world. The figures that swim alongside divers are often viewed as part of the ocean's deep, untouched past. A presence that has always been there, silently watching over the waters. Some locals suggest that these figures are the spirits of ancient Hawaiian fishermen or ancestors, their souls forever tied to the waters they once navigated. Others believe the figures are connected to the crater itself, a place of great natural beauty that has, over time, become a kind of spiritual sanctuary. Whatever the explanation, the experience of seeing these ghostly divers remains a powerful and thought-provoking one. The story of the diving spirit of Molokini is not one of fear, but one of awe and reflection. It is the story of an ancient place where past and present converge, where the boundary between the living and the dead seems to blur in the depths of the ocean. The experience of encountering the spirits is fleeting, but it leaves a lasting impression, reminding those who explore the waters that some mysteries are never meant to be fully understood. Imagine yourself descending into the warm, still waters of Molokini crater at night. The dark depths stretch below, the light from your dive lamp casting long, shadowy beams across the rocks and coral. The silence of the underwater world envelopes you, broken only by the soft sound of your own breath. Suddenly, you notice movement out of the corner of your eye. You turn, and for a moment, you see a pale figure swimming in perfect harmony with the water, its movements smooth and deliberate. But as you approach, it disappears into the darkness, leaving only the sensation that something, or someone, is still there, watching. The diving spirit of Molokini is not a haunting in the traditional sense. Instead, it is a reminder of the deep and ancient connection between the ocean and those who have lived on its shores. The figures that swim alongside divers are not threats or malevolent beings, but rather part of a larger, more mysterious world. They are spirits of the water, bound to the deep, continuing their eternal dance in the moonlit ocean. For those fortunate enough to witness them, the experience is not just a moment of wonder, it is a reminder of the vastness of the sea, its secrets, and the lives it has touched for centuries. The Kona coast of the Big Island, with its black sand beaches and serene waters, is a place where the land meets the sea in a delicate dance. The sound of waves crashing against the shore fills the air. The scent of saltwater mingling with the warmth of the tropical sun. By day, it is a peaceful escape. But as night falls, the coast takes on a different character. It is here, along these rugged shores, that the legend of the fisherman's wife lingers. A ghostly presence that has captured the imaginations of locals and visitors alike. A woman's ghost waits by the shore. Visitors to the Kona coast often report an eerie sensation when walking along the beach at night. As the moonlight shimmers on the water, a figure can sometimes be seen standing by the shore, gazing out at the horizon. Her silhouette is pale, almost ethereal, standing motionless against the dark backdrop of the ocean. No one ever approaches her, and she does not move. But there is a lingering sadness in her presence. As if she is waiting for something or someone. Those who have ventured closer to the water recount hearing soft crying, faint yet unmistakable, carried by the breeze. The sound is haunting, distant, but it tugs at something deep inside. Some say the cries seem to come from nowhere and everywhere at once, echoing across the waves, lost to the ocean but somehow still present, as if the sea itself mourns with her. The sound is unsettling, as though the grief of the past is too heavy to be contained and must spill into the present. It is the reflection in the water, however, that has captivated the most attention. As visitors stand at the shore, they claim to see the woman's reflection in the water, pale and translucent. She appears as if she is part of the sea itself, her figure shimmering faintly in the moonlight. Some describe her as wearing a flowing dress, the fabric dancing in the breeze, while others speak of her as a shadow, her features blurred but her sorrow unmistakable. The reflection stirs in the water, as if beckoning, but when one moves closer to investigate, it vanishes, slipping away like a dream fading upon waking, leaving the water still and empty once more. There is a sense of loss in the air, a feeling of something left behind. The fisherman's wife is a legend with many variations. Some say she waits for the return of her husband, a fisherman who was lost to the sea long ago. while others believe she is waiting for the return of a lover or a lost child. The details change with each telling, but the central truth remains the same. She is a woman bound to the shore, eternally waiting, eternally longing. The Kona coast holds her story, and it seems as though the ocean itself has claimed her spirit, keeping her bound to the waves and the land she once knew. As the story goes, the woman was once a part of this place, her life intertwined with the rhythm of the sea. She would stand on the shore, watching the horizon for the return of the fishing boats, always hoping, always waiting. But one fateful day, the boats did not return, and her world was plunged into an endless wait for the return of someone who would never come. It is said that her sorrow transformed into a ghostly presence, her figure lingering by the shore for eternity, bound to the ocean that took her loved ones away. The fisherman's wife is not alone in her grief. Many who have visited the shore speak of the deep sense of melancholy that accompanies her apparition. The beach, which is peaceful during the day, becomes a place of sorrow at night. The sound of waves crashing against the shore mixing with the faint cries of a woman long lost. There are whispers of people who have felt the weight of her grief, as though her presence has been imprinted on the very air, the land and the water. Some say they have felt an overwhelming sadness upon approaching the water's edge, as though the loss of a loved one were their own, too. Yet, despite her haunting presence, there is a certain tranquility that comes with knowing she is there. For some, the fisherman's wife is a reminder of the deep connection between life and the sea. A connection that is often fleeting and uncertain. In her mourning, she becomes a part of the landscape, a figure suspended between the world of the living and the world of the lost. The Kona coast is no longer just a beautiful, remote stretch of sand. It is a place of memory, where the past and present converge, and where the sea holds both the living and the dead in its embrace. As the night deepens, the woman remains by the shore, her form fading in and out of the water's surface. Her cries soften with the wind, carried out over the waves, a gentle reminder of love, loss, and the eternal wait. Visitors who encounter her leave with the feeling that they have witnessed something sacred, a part of the Islanda's history and spirit that cannot be touched, but can only be felt. The fisherman's wife, forever waiting by the shore, continues her silent vigil, an enduring figure in the night, a ghost tethered to the sea she once knew. The Kona coast holds many secrets, and none are as haunting as the legend of the fisherman's wife. The Hana rainforest on the island of Maui is a place of dense foliage, ancient trees, and the constant sound of rain filtering through the canopy. Lush green vegetation blankets the land, and mist clings to the earth, creating an ethereal, otherworldly atmosphere. The rainforest is a sanctuary of natural beauty, but as the fog rolls in and the daylight fades, a different energy emerges, one that feels both deeply connected to the land and profoundly mysterious. Visitors to the Hana rainforest often report hearing faint chanting. The sound is soft, rhythmic, and almost indistinguishable from the natural symphony of the rainforest. Yet the chanting is not like the typical sounds of nature. It feels deliberate, ancient, and full of intent. It is as though the rainforest itself is alive with voices from the past, carrying a message that only the attentive can hear. In the mist, figures occasionally appear. They are fleeting, often seen out of the corner of the eye, moving through the dense vegetation with a quiet grace. Some describe the figures as human-shaped but cloaked in the haze of the mist, indistinct but undeniably present. They seem to move purposefully through the forest, as if guiding those who walk the trails or, at times, silently following them, maintaining a distance yet staying close enough to be felt. Maintaining a distance yet staying close enough to be felt. One visitor described walking along a trail near the heart of the forest when they first noticed the figures. They seemed to be walking just ahead, their forms barely visible through the mist that curled around them like a veil. The visitors slowed their pace, watching as the figures disappeared into the fog, only to appear again further down the path. The presence was not frightening, but it carried with it an undeniable sense of being watched or followed, as though the forest was guiding them deeper into its secrets. As the mist thickened and the trees loomed high overhead, some visitors report feeling an unexplainable coldness. It is not the kind of cold that comes with a drop in temperature, but something more subtly a chill that brushes against the skin. A sensation of cold hands lightly touching the shoulders. These moments are brief, but they leave a lingering impression, as though something unseen has made contact, offering guidance or perhaps testing the resolve of the traveler. The coldness often comes without warning, followed by the soft echo of footsteps. Visitors who experience this sensation describe a quiet but persistent sound of movement, as if someone or something walks behind them. When they turn, no one is there. Yet the footsteps continue, fading only when they reach the edge of the forest or the mist begins to thin. It is as though the ancient spirits of the forest, whether guardian or guide, are keeping a watchful eye on those who wander the rainforest at night. The Hana rainforest is known for its connection to ancient Hawaiian traditions, and many locals believe the spirits of past ancestors inhabit the land, watching over the forest and those who enter it. Some say that the chanting is the voice of these spirits, speaking through the natural world to guide or warn visitors. Others believe the figures in the mist are manifestations of these spirits, appearing to those who are receptive to their presence, offering guidance, or simply reminding travelers of their deep connection to the land. One story passed down through generations speaks of an ancient spirit that guards the rainforest, ensuring that the balance of nature is maintained. This spirit, known to the locals as the Ancient One, is said to appear when the forest feels the presence of someone who may need its protection or guidance. Some visitors describe the sensation of a watchful presence that seems to follow them, a constant companion along the trail. Whether this is the Ancient One or simply the spirit of the land, the feeling of being guided or protected is a common experience among those who venture into the heart of the Hana rainforest. Even when the figures in the mist vanish, the forest retains its energy. The air still seems charged with presence, and the whisper of the wind feels like a message, a communication from the spirit world. Visitors often leave the rainforest with a sense of awe, a heightened awareness of the land and its history, and an inexplicable connection to something larger than themselves. The Hana rainforest is not just a place of natural beauty, it is a space where the boundary between the living and the spiritual world seems thin, where the presence of the past and the land is felt deeply and intimately. The figures in the mist, the cold touch, and the persistent footsteps create an atmosphere of connection and mystery that is difficult to put into words but impossible to forget. Night falls over the rainforest, and the mist curls around the towering trees. The chanting begins again, faint and rhythmic, carried on the wind. Figures move through the fog, their forms barely visible yet undeniably present, guiding or following those who walk the ancient paths. The forest is alive with whispers, and the spirits of the Hana rainforest continue to watch, guide, and protect, maintaining their ancient connection to the land and to those who visit, long after the night has passed. And so, our journey through Hawaii's haunted islands comes to an end. 20 places where the past lingers, where spirits walk among the living, where the beauty of the islands hides restless souls. If you ever venture to these islands at night, remember, the waves carry voices, the forest watches, and the fog is never empty. Thank you for walking with me tonight. May your nights be safe, your beaches silent, and your footsteps sound only to the living. And your footsteps sound only to the living. Before you leave, tell me in the comments, which haunted island place frightened you the most? And would you dare to spend a night there alone? Sleep carefully, dear listener. If the shadows allow.